In 2024, the FCT minister Nyesom Wike dug in his heels despite harsh criticisms of high-handedness by his critics, insisting on urban renewal, infrastructure development, and adherence to the master plan of Abuja. In October, Abuja held its first investment summit, letting the world know that the nation's capital is open for business, especially with infrastructure development. And speaking of infrastructure development, in December alone, we saw the construction of the Kabusa-Keti Access Road, the access road to the EFCC Academy site in Giri, the office complex for the body of benches, staff quarters for the Nigerian Law School in Buari, the 15-kilometer road from A2 Junction at the Abuja-Lokoja Road to Pai in the Kwali Area Council, 18 new vehicles added to the FCT transportation fleet, the modern bus and taxi terminals at Mabushi, Kugbo, and the Central Business District. The FCT minister held several media chats in the course of the year, articulating his policies and plans for the nation's capital and addressing the need for demolition of illegal structures and responsibility on the part of landowners and developers. It was quite a year for the FCT minister. 2025, it seems, may even be busier for Minister Wike, as the Federal Capital Territory Executive Committee has sanctioned contracts totaling 33.24 billion naira for new projects scheduled over the coming year. Nigeria's presidency also took center stage this year, and we addressed the highs and lows of 2024 this week on Dateline Abuja. Hello and welcome to Dateline Abuja. I am Kayla Magwa. Let's wrap up the year with this week in Nigeria's presidency. President Bola Tinubu insists that he has no regrets for ending the fuel subsidy regime, despite the hardship and negative impact it has had on the Nigerian economy and the lives of most Nigerians. He was speaking during his first media chat, where he addressed and fielded different questions from national and international journalists in Ikoyi, Lagos State. President Tinubu also made clear his position that despite the opposition to the tax reform bills currently in the National Assembly, the reforms are here to stay.
Every tax situation without Accra is not a tax. Well, you cannot satisfy uniformly the larger community of tax evaders. Look at this tax reform. It's pro-poor. The vulnerables are not to pay taxes. All we ask for is widen the net, bake the cake larger, so that we can share a larger meal.
President Bola Tinubu has called on Nigerians to renew their hope and belief in a prosperous Nigeria, as the country is on a promising path of restoration and progress, pointing towards a bright future. In his Christmas message to Christians across Nigeria and worldwide, the president noted that Christmas embodies the fulfillment of divine prophecy and symbolizes the triumph of love, peace, and unity. According to him, quote, "It is a poignant reminder that light can emerge even in the darkest times, bringing solace and hope. This belief resonates with people of all faiths. Indeed, God is with us." End quote. The president sympathized with the families enduring pain and loss, whether from floods, fires, or accidents, including the recent stampedes in Ibadan, Okija, and Abuja. Vice President Kashim Shettima has assured of the support of the federal government to families affected in stampedes across the country during the distribution of Christmas palliatives. In a condolence message signed by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Communication, Office of the Vice President, Stanley Nkwocha, Vice President Shettima expressed deep sorrow over the losses, just as he offered prayers and heartfelt condolences. 22 persons lost their lives in a stampede in Okija, Anambra State, while 10 persons died in Abuja during an annual Christmas food sharing event at the Holy Trinity Church in Maitama. The two incidents occurred 3 days after the stampede at the Islamic High School, Bashan, in Ibadan, Oyo State, where several children lost their lives during a holiday fun fair celebration. The Nigerian police force has debunked the reports released by Amnesty International on the End Bad Governance protests in Nigeria on the grounds that the report is inaccurate and misleading. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the force public relations officer, ACP Olumuyiwa Adejobi, says evidence available to the police indicates that certain elements infiltrated the protests with the intention of inciting violence, destroying public property, and endangering public safety. But the police responded with minimum force without the use of arms to disperse such disruptive elements in accordance with legal guidelines. The force public relations officer explains that the detentions and prosecutions were conducted within legal frameworks, and allegations of arbitrary arrests, maltreatments, or denial of legal access are unsubstantiated, as police personnel deployed to manage the protest demonstrated high levels of professionalism in public order management across the country. Amnesty International had on the 28th of November 2024 released a report titled Bloody August, Nigerian Government's Violent Crackdown on End Bad Governance Protests, where several allegations were made against the Nigerian police, including the killing of at least 24 persons in 6 northern states during the protest. The federal government of Nigeria has strongly rejected allegations made in a viral video by the military leader of Niger Republic, claiming non-existent collusion between Nigeria and France to destabilize his country. In a statement signed by the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mr. Mohammed Idris, the claims exist solely in the realm of imagination, as Nigeria has never engaged in any overt or covert alliance with France or any other country to sponsor terrorist attacks or destabilize the Niger Republic in the wake of the undemocratic change in the leadership of that country. The minister noted that the claims about the alleged establishment of a so-called Lukarawa terrorist headquarters in Sokoto State, reportedly orchestrated by Nigeria in collaboration with France, are baseless, and Nigeria has been a regional leader in combating terrorism, dedicating significant resources and lives to ensure stability in the Lake Chad Basin and beyond. Welcome back. We begin with security. In February, we got assurances from the police that security challenges in the FCT will be reduced to the barest minimum, especially the kidnapping problem at the time known as the one-chance crime. At the time, Mr. Benigwe was announced as the new Commissioner of Police for Abuja.
We cannot allow black spots. If you see what we see in black spots, you will weak for this nation. And that's why we say you cannot be here, and we're here. If you go to those black spots, all sorts of crimes are being committed. And to them, it's not crime. You see halotry, everything together, taking drugs, different drugs. The one they call ice, urmiri, the codeine, Indian hemp, crack, all sorts of drugs taking place there. People even come there to smoke. Bandits and armed robbers, especially from other neighboring states, the one we just attacked in Zuba, that is where they, from the bush, they will come there to enjoy themselves. The issue is that we cannot allow it to exist around FCT.
What places are we talking about like this?
We are talking of area like, if you go to Zuba, now Gogwalada, we can go to Gamaje. We can see areas... Tugamaje. You can see areas... Islands, they are trying to enter the town, but we have told them, no, we cannot be here, and we are here.
They are not inside the city center.
If you go to areas like Wasa after Waru, towards Gugugu Pesa, from there you use that new road to enter into Karachi area. You see those, we are reading those black spots. Those of them that are existing in areas like, if you go to Buhari, areas like towards Garamuse, and so on. We have closed all of them down. So that's why peace is returning. People are not conscious of whatever we are explaining about the operations, the modus operandi of the One Chance Group. One, the One Chance Group, before you enter the motor, it will remain only one chance. The car is already filled. 3 people are at the back. 2 people are in front. The driver and one other. It remains only one chance. And before the vehicle will veer off the road, passengers have already rushed and said, they will just rush there and say, they will not allow the driver to say where they're going. They will just say, before the person say, who say, they will open the door. The person will enter. That is one chance. One chance of sitting is what is remaining in the vehicle. That is the one chance. And because people will say, check a vehicle. If you see any vehicle, 3 people already, including a woman, because now they operate with women, including a woman sitting at the back, 3 people already at the back, 2 people are in front. Don't enter.
Developmental projects by the FCT minister necessitated this conversation with public affairs analyst Jide Ojo in June of 2024. And it was in the midst of rising criticisms that the minister's projects were focused on the city center. And he and the Tinubu administration were criticized for the 21 billion naira spent on the new residence for the Vice President Kashim Shettima.
You know, we had a minister for 8 years in FCT that people are asking themselves, do we really have anybody at the end of affair? For those 8 years, they call him Mr. Integrity. Oh, he's very prudent. Oh, he returns money to Treasury as if there are no projects to be done. But here is a man that knows what to do with money. And we could see that if there is anything that President Tinubu has achieved in his first year in government, at least Wike contributed over 50% to infrastructural development that the president commissioned.
But it hasn't been without its criticism.
Sure.
There are people who believe he's scraping up perfectly good roads. That there are worse roads in the suburbs, that need work. There are places that actually need this construction. He was criticized for, doing all of these work in the city center. That's one criticism.
Mm-hmm.
Also, another criticism that he's faced is on the vice president's house.
Mm.
And the amount of money that has been used. There are write-ups out there. Why didn't they just fix Abuja House? Which is where former Vice President Professor Shimbajo was staying before. Why didn't you just fix Abuja House or renovate it or something?
You see, no matter what, you can't work without your head shaking. It's not like a flawless man. And I quite agree. Some roads that are manageable, like the one in Asokoro, many of those roads he went to scrape. I think he just did it to please the elites. That's where his brother governors have their lodges. Even the president, that's where he has his private residence. So I think he just wanted to use the first year to make them say, one of our own, esprit de corps. So he did that because I was wondering, when I went to Asokoro, I saw all these roads that were scraped and all of that. These roads were manageable. You just need some touches here and there, fill the potholes, manage. Then the issue of the vice president's lodge, I don't know the ace. I don't know the rationale, the reason that they spent such quantum sums of money to complete it. Yes, it didn't start with this administration. They say it's taking 14 years or thereabout. It was meant to cost 7 billion. Now it's cost well over 21 billion or thereabout. I don't think that is a priority. In my own estimation, if I were to be the FCT minister, I would not put that as a priority. I think it needs more attention. The satellite communities need better attention than he has given them. The Karus of this world, the Lugbes of this world, the Kubwa of this world, Dawakis, all this, down to, Gwagwalada, to Abaji, to Kuje. These are where the larger population of Abuja resides. And they want to feel the impact. They want to have it easy. They want to also feel like being in the Federal Capital Territory. That's why I think this second year that we have started, it needs to pay more attention to the satellite communities to see that impact of safety and security.
In July of 2024, we had the then acting Director of Engineering for the FCDA, Mr. Richard Dauda, who is now the acting Executive Secretary of the FCDA, replacing Engineer Shehu Hadi Ahmad. And our focus was on Lugbe, its infrastructure deficit, and plans for Phase 5 of the FCT development plan.
We have a situation where people have developed even before the infrastructure comes. As government will continue to do its best to provide the infrastructure, particularly, as you know.
What do you do when that happens? Is that what's happened in Lugbe, that development came, people flooded the place, and development started before the infrastructure? Is that what happened in Lugbe?
That is partly what happened in Lugbe. But you know, Lugbe itself is situated in a place we call Phase 5 now. Phase 5, which I call the planning area. Now, we have Phase 1 to 4. And the idea was to develop Phase 1 to 4 before we come into Phase 5. Now we have people in Phase 5, and Phase 3 and 4 is still not developed. Now, Lugbe, I believe, because of the access, particularly the airport road, where people can easily join and come into the city. So a lot of people settle. Apart from that, because of the housing needs, the federal housing approach FCT.
Houses are a bit more affordable.
Yes, a federal housing authority.
In Lugbe.
Yes, they were the first to approach the FCT. FCT gave them the land there, and they developed houses. Now, when they develop houses, they also provide infrastructure to the standard for which they provide, which is not in tandem with the standard we provide in the city. Now, because they are there already, when the FCTA is ready and have sufficient funds to go in there, that is when the infrastructure will be provided.
So what happens next?
What happens next is that once it is time, and
so they have to wait until it is time.
They will have to wait until we get to that point. You see, there's something about development infrastructure in the city. It follows a particular sequence. Now, take for example, sewage, liquid waste disposal, or even water supply. If you are going to connect water supply, for example, to the Lugbe area, you will have to come through a Phase 3. You get it? So that you lay pipes that interconnect sequentially until it gets there. And so once there's a gap, of course, that gap will have to be filled before they get there. So, and as it is, like I told you, the Lugbe area is part of the planning area.
In August, the End Bad Governance protest held across the country. In Abuja, court orders restricting the protest to the Moshood Abiola Stadium were disobeyed, with consequences. We had a conversation with the commandant of the NSCDC FCT Command, Olushola Odumosu, to examine those consequences.
We had a series of issues. Maraba was, Yanya axis was terrible because if you saw what happened, you know that axis is densely populated, and majority of those people you saw were not protesters. They were hoodlums, they were miscreants, they were
But your men were patrolling.
They were everywhere.
What we saw was a lot of damage done in Karunyanya, Maraba axis. How would you assess the way your men worked in those places to protect infrastructure there? Well,
I'll tell you honestly and for free that we must give kudos to the security agencies. We were guided, by our rules of engagement. And the Commandant General, Dr. Ahmed Abubakar Haudi, MNIFR, emphasized that on no account must any of us use live ammunitions. So prior to the beginning of the protest, we took delivery of rubber bullets at the national headquarters, which he made available to all states command. So,
did your men fire any rubber bullets during the protest in Abuja?
Well, there were some areas where they got violent. If they don't do that, they probably wouldn't have, come out alive, so they had to fire rubber bullets into there. The whole idea.
In what places?
Yeah, like in Maraba, for instance, and in Yaya Axis, for instance, there were places where the men were almost overwhelmed. You need to have been there,
Such as what places?
In Yaya, for instance, there was a lot of violence that we had to even call for the military to come and engage them. Then also in Kubwa Axis, we also saw what happened. And in Duse, the miscreants took over the street, and at some point they were even, some of them even went as far as extorting commuters. And those passers by.
For them to be able to
for them to use the road, they take money from them. Some, they were snatching phones. So we had to move in and disperse them.
What sort of things did you recover from those that you arrested?
Yes, like at the stadium, for instance, we had the aluminium wire mesh and all of that they have already destroyed. We had some cables recovered, and we picked up some guys around the Mabuchi axis. They were attempting to vandalize street light. When they saw my men on patrol, they took to their heels, but I think 2 of them was arrested. So some were caught in the act, some ran away, and some we prevented them, from doing
So what
that.
happens to the ones that you've arrested? What next for them?
We are prosecuting them. That's it. It's not, we don't treat them with kid gloves. Once they are arrested, we do the needful.
And finally, in November, the State of the Nigerian Child report was released by UNICEF. And on Dateline Abuja, an urgent call for action was made by the UNICEF representative in Nigeria, Christiane Munduate, urging the federal government to urgently reverse the fortunes of the Nigerian child.
It is necessary and urgent. We have a very short window of opportunity. It's more or less 5 years more to reach 2030. And of course, we have the Sustainable Development Goals, which is, a target for the entire globe to reach. But besides that, we do have a strong pressure in Nigeria to support those millions of children that are currently without access to basic services such as health, nutrition, and education. But if you account the numbers that are not attended at this moment, and you add that 8 million children are newborns every year in the country, it means that by 2030, you will have 48 million children more in Nigeria. This is the situation. If they don't receive education, the risks of violence, the risks of criminality, the risk of drug consumption, and therefore the drops on productivity will be high. So this is why this is so much more important, and the reason why we made a huge ask in terms of prioritizing investments and budgets for education, for health and nutrition, water and sanitation.
What should the president be thinking about right now? We're entering into 2025. What sort of increase should we see in budgetary allocations for these services that concern children in Nigeria?
Well, I think this is, is a matter of priorities. Where to put the priorities is one. I fully, and we all are very conscious about the level of pressure that the government has in terms of the multiple demands and urgencies that the country has. Actually, the global minimum that the different states around the world, the different countries manage is not less than 15% of the national budget for education and health. We are not there. We are kind of 6-7%. So you can do some adjustments in the funds.
What a year 2024 has been. May 2025 bring hope, development, and progress to the FCT administration and residents of the nation's capital. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm Kayla Magwa. See you next time.